don't care what y'all say. Danielle is the walking example of the fact that we need to normalize telling people I don't give a fuck in the middle of conversations. Y'all, let's get into this episode 3 of Basketball Wives Orlando. Hey, question crew, and welcome, beautiful people, if you're new to this channel. So, we are talking about episode 3 of Basketball Wives Orlando. And, child, let me say, now we're finally getting to some fire this week. So, we meet up with our girl, Neek, who is coming back off of a hosting gig. So, as we know, Neek is really a popular influencer already and YouTuber. And so she gets jobs outside of just being obviously Dwayne's girlfriend. She was known online before that. And so she's not been in the mix with some of the ladies in Orlando for a minute, and she's trying to get back into the flow and find out everything that's been going on. Neek missed all of this stuff. Anyway, Neek meets up with Milan, and she's trying to catch up and get an idea about, where everybody is at the moment. And Milan begins to explain to her what went down between Danielle and Mackenzie. So Milan begins to explain how Danielle went off on Mackenzie and how Mackenzie some sort of way feels like, whatever her situation is really a Rashad issue. And Danielle feels like, Mackenzie was this side chick that was messing with Rashad while he was still with Danielle. However, Danielle acknowledges that it's a strong chance that Rashad did not tell Mackenzie that he had a lady or that he was still with someone when they were messing around, and that they probably were messing around together. And the thing is, she's saying all this to Neek, and it's a little bit hilarious to me because I'm like, Neek was in the exact same situation. Because if you remember from episode, I believe 1 or even 2 that we saw last week, Neek was basically saying that, that was her situation, or Mackenzie was saying that was her situation, that she didn't know about Neek. But the thing that I appreciate about Mackenzie is that when they kind of fleshed it out, Mackenzie was like, you know what, Dwayne probably was saying those things to you because that's what dudes do. And I don't know at the moment that she's still holding on to it. So it's like, at least she's acknowledged that it probably was him that was the miscommunication, instead of constantly harping on it, because she has kids with Dwayne and the kids have to be around Neek. So I just feel like, why can't Danielle do the same thing? So Neek is listening to the situation, and, she's trying to take it in, but I think it's identifying for her, with the issue she has going on with Dwayne. I mean, I know she was like man in the mirror type energy, but it just is weird that Danielle is still hyping on this. And Milan also feels the need to step in and address it, because she says that she can't tell somebody how to act, because she says that even though she's cool with Danielle and should have, maybe talked to her about bringing it down, because they were at Ashley's event and it was rude as hell to be in there arguing with somebody over a man who ain't even chasing you. But either way, she's like, well, I can't tell her how to be because, I'm how people react is how they're going to react. And I know that would hurt me. And Neek says she understands what Danielle is going through, but she feels like there's not really anything that can be done at this point. Like, the man has moved on, and she's going about this in the entire wrong way. And I, like everybody else, probably felt the same way. Girl, you're embarrassing yourself. This man not even chasing you. He not interested. He not inviting you back to the house. You're not having conversations about getting back together in a real way. Even if he's texting you in your phone bay now, you're not moved back into place, girl. So why are you arguing over this man? Like, why are you beefing? Like, girl, you shouldn't even be beefing. If you had a problem, you shouldn't be beefing at that wedding. Why would you bring this to somebody else's club? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. So Neek says she's going to try to have a girls' night, and she wants, all ladies to get dressed up. Like, she thinks they could take pictures and have a good time and get some drinks in. And, she's trying to make some content. You know what I'm saying? Never forgetting her real job. And I was thinking to myself, do they really need liquor and alcohol in this situation? This don't really always work out with these women. And Nika's like, look, maybe we could do some TikToks and just have a good old day, make it a content day, because I need content for my channel. Not Meek out here trying to be Mona Scott Young light, okay? Because when I tell you them girls should not be drinking, but she's like, look, take one more sip so I can have something to put up on YouTube tomorrow. Okay, so we meet with our girl Megan, and Megan is coming back from somewhere, child. We don't really know. Honestly, she could have just been entering the house on take. And there's some man in the back of what is like a condo or whatever. He's cooking like 2 little steaks on a grill, and season them, got a little paprika, some little parsley, and he's grilling. And Megan comes in and she kisses him and she says, "Hey, babe." And so we realize, okay, this is somebody that is there. Now, what was really weird about this moment is they had Megan as the ex-girlfriend of another player, introducing her that way, and then they show that this is her current boyfriend. That is the weirdest thing ever, y'all. When they be showing like the only way you affiliate on the show is the man you used to mess with, but we gonna show your new man too. It was just awkward. So Megan basically says that this is her new man. I think his name is Ray. And, he's a tattoo artist. And he's famous in his own right. He's a celebrity tattoo artist, and tattoo celebrities and athletes. And they met like about a year ago on Instagram. So he hit her in the DMs, and she said that he's a real guy in real life, and that's why they work together. He's really, really cool. He's very connected. She said that they're, both entrepreneurs that really made them bond very quickly, and they understand each other's life and schedule. And plus, she been through his phone, and so she knows that she ain't never found nothing. Now, you know what they tell you about going through somebody's phone, honey? If you're not ready to see it, don't be trolling. Don't be looking through somebody's phone if you ain't ready to see it, and if you ain't ready to do nothing about it. Because if you see something and you don't say something, you're a dummy. So Megan then proceeds to sit down and have a conversation with him. I don't know if the mistakes was burning or what was going on. She tells him that she misses him and that she wishes he could move to Orlando. And he says that, I just can't pick up and leave because I got kids. And so we talking about how many kids, bro. But I think he said he had 2 kids. I don't know if he mentioned how many children he had. And then she says that she knows that she loves his kids. She likes his kids. And he says, do you love my kids? And she said, yeah, I love your kids. And he says, how serious are you about making this thing a real thing? Because, somebody upending their life to go move to Orlando of all places is really something that's a big deal. And the guys, and, he was like, I'm very, very family oriented. I can't just leave, and I definitely can't move anywhere because I need to really be close to my children. So they start having this conversation about, Megan saying that, hey, what about us and having a kid? And I'm just thinking to myself, girl, this is not just something you pick out in the alley. Baby is a big deal. And all of a sudden she pulls out this pregnancy test, a clear blue easy, honey. And he looks stressed on his face, like, what? Like, we ain't doing that. And she's like, read it. And he's like, oh. So he reads it and realizes that it's not, actually she's not pregnant. And she said that, she was just joking, but she is ready for the next chapter in her life, and that she's serious about that, and she's ready for them to get along with it. And I just feel like a lot of times what I see going on with people, especially like when it starts to get like an influencer life thing, is it's turning into like this casual energy about parenting. Like that shit is hard. And so the idea of whether you have 2 active parents that are working together, which makes it a lot easier, but even if you're a single parent or you end up becoming a single parent through any level of circumstances, like why people acting like it's a casual thing to just have a baby, like it's not gonna be a big deal. It's gonna change your entire life. So I need her to take this less, more serious than like getting a deal with Instagram. Like, girl, you really need to consider the fact that this is going to be a life changer for you. A baby is a real thing. That's a 24/7 job. Having a kid, it never ends. And you ain't going to be able to just botting and bopping all over the place, honey. We don't want the early years of Drea. So he says, look, we got to start having a more serious conversation, because he explains to her again that he is very family oriented and that Megan is not. And, Megan kind of starts discussing her struggles with her mom and, the estrangement she has with her family. And we kind of all know this, especially if you are a fan of Megan's podcast. She's talked about this in depth on multiple interviews. And she really talked about it a lot when she was talking with Tokyo Tony, which was super hilarious. But she got serious about Tokyo Tony and China's relationship, because she was asking how to sort of work through that, because she was trying to figure out how to navigate her own relationship with her mom. And she was actually asking Tokyo a lot of questions. And when Tokyo wasn't acting like she was on every other drug on earth, she was actually answering with some really solid information about how they could possibly come together. It's interesting. So he says, well, he's very close with his mom, and his father has been in his life his entire time. She said, well, look, my daddy ain't in my life. He dead, so it don't even matter. And me and my mama don't kick it like that. And he's like, yeah, but I'm still really close to my family. And for me to be able to be with somebody, and especially to have a kid with somebody, I need them to work out their family parenting situation. Megan, then decides to break down, what exactly her dynamic is. Basically, she was born to her mother at a very young age. Her mom was 18 when she had her. And their torn relationship is because her mom just basically left her with her grandparents to raise her, and then just was like out here living her life and really wasn't around for her in her more formative years when it was really, really important. And then she pops up every once in a blue to try to be in Megan's life when it's opportunistic for her. So, I think she even mentioned a situation where a couple years back, she hit her up after not talking for like 2-3 years, and then says, hey, can you get me in this party with Diddy? And it's just like, Megan was like, girl, pass through. Like, I'm not really interested in that. So Megan says that she really, really likes him, and she really wants to make a go at it in a serious way. And she does feel pressure from him to heal things with her family. And that if she was going to be fixing anything, it would be for her family. They kind of just finish up the conversation, and she says she's not, she's still on the idea of it. He takes the pregnancy test and swirls it in some little Hennessy or something he had, and then he swirls it in some water she had. She throws it out, and then he drinks it. And that was disgusting. And, the end of that scene. Child. So the authenticity be so weird during these transitional scenes, honey. They don't even get into any real like connection with these women. It just straight be let's get to it. So Milan meets up with Mackenzie to talk about the, whole Danielle drama. And it's just giving like, I'm not really sure why you're in this situation, girl. We just talked the other day about this, but whatever. When I say there's no authenticity in their connection, I mean, they're just now getting to know each other, and it's clear that there's no like warmth in this situation. It just immediately goes to, girl, let me talk to you about Rashad. So Milan is pleading, Danielle and Rashad's case with Mackenzie. And so Milan is basically like, look, she was with Rashad for 8 years and they have kids together. And in less than 90 days after they broke up, he's hanging out with somebody else. And I'm like, okay, girl, I hear that. But it could have been anybody else outside of Mackenzie, and Danielle going off on that girl too. So Mackenzie's like, yeah, but I didn't date him while they were still together. Like, it's 90 days after, and, the only reason that they even, Danielle knows about them is because she found out about her during the tour trip to Tulum. So I think it's important to kind of stop real quick and just think about the fact of their situation. I feel like Milan is not thinking about like the lifestyle that they live. And it's not to say that in general, men who aren't, wealthy don't move on quickly as well either. But Danielle's obsession with it being Mackenzie versus somebody else, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And girl, he was going to be single for 90 days, but he has money. There are girls waiting in the wings the entire 8 years that you were dating. And I'm sure there were ups and downs. And as soon as you were no longer there were going to be women that noticed him, that met him when he was out and about. He's going to be a single man out here trying to meet somebody. So it's just weird to make it sound like, well, within 90 days, he's already moved on. This is a Rashad problem. It's really not a Mackenzie problem. And Mackenzie says that the initial reason that, Rashad, didn't even post their pictures is that she knew that she would take the pictures and do something with them or whatever. And she says the reason why it was such a problem was because when she saw some pictures of her on Rashad's page, Danielle posted like a fake page and made like a whole kind of like an obsessive, crazy X page about Mackenzie and Rashad. And it's like, it's giving unhinged and it's giving high school. She said that, like Dwayne is concerned because she definitely makes his life hell. See, the thing I don't understand is that Milan is pleading Danielle's case. Are you feeling the same way about Dwayne and Neek? Because where was your feelings then in this situation as well, girl? Like, it's kind of like they low-key throwing Neek in there, but at the same time, it's kind of like the same situation. She didn't know what Dwayne was doing. And Mackenzie was like, hey, we were still together at the time, but men lie and the situation is what it is. But what does that have to do with the situation now? Because Neek not leaving her man. And I just don't understand. For some reason, we're forcing this girl to interrupt her relationship with her current man to try to figure out what he was telling his ex is wild. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, if you feel like Rashad is lying to you, why are you still dealing with him on any kind of level? Why are you allowing him to text you messages about possibly getting back together? Of course, this is what Danielle is saying is happening. RV, RV, RV. This doesn't even make sense to me. Danielle's making all these choices that makes it seem like her and Rashad are still together, but clearly you're not back in the house, mama. The issue is with him. It's not with Mackenzie. So next up, we got Miss Ashley, honey. And I have to say, this was one of the more touching parts of the episode. Ashley's saying that now that she's reopened her store, she wants to get back to being a wife and a mom. And that's really what's most important to her. She then goes into her story about how she met Tony at Jimmy Butler's barbecue 6 years ago. And see, this is the thing. You got to be at the right place at the right time, honey, because being at another basketball player's barbecue and then meeting your basketball player husband is where it's at. So these events happen all the time in certain situations, and it's not always a groupie event, but you got to be at the right place with the right people and making sure that you look very single if you want to meet your rich husband, honey. So Ashley lets us know that, her journey to motherhood has not been an easy one. When I tell you I was not prepared for this, like I literally shed a tear because this girl has been through a lot. And I get it. Ashley's not everybody's favorite, but honey, when I tell you I would be broken with this girl experience. So she goes on to say that she lost her father in 2018. And then a year later, she lost her mom while she was 2 months pregnant. I was already immediately devastated. I would be on the floor and not be able to get back up, honey. One behind the other parents is got to be the worst situation. Burying one parent, then turning around and have to bury another parent. And it really reminded me of, if you watch Black in Chicago, Charmaine's story, when she finally met her husband and they got together, and then they finally were having their first child, and her mom passed away and was sick when she was pregnant and then passed away. And then her dad passes away too, like maybe a year or two after her mom. And it was just like, oh my God, how much can go on? It's ridiculous. So again, it just sounds so horrific, and it's the saddest journey. And it's already making me feel like, damn, Ashley has layers, whether or not we love the vapidness or some of the attitude. Not just the devastation of losing parents, honey. Ashley goes on to say that she ended up losing that child. And I was like, this bitch is resilient. You can't tell me nothing. I would be a basket case. Losing my parents like stair steps, and then turning around and losing my child is got to be incredibly hard. I can't even begin to imagine what that would be like. But she said that she really pushed through, and she really still wanted children. So her and Dwayne tried again, but then ultimately they went with a surrogate for their youngest son. And then right after that, I think they waited like another year or two and had their second son, Kenzo. And they had that through a surrogate as well. I said, look at God, honey. People helping people bring little lives into the world is such a beautiful thing. If people are able to do that and willing to do that, I think that that's such a angelic gift to give somebody, an angelic gift to give somebody a child. So especially after such a devastating loss. And I have to imagine that it was probably really hard for her to conceive again. And, you don't know what medical risks are happening, and you still want to have kids. And now there's like the safe way to do it, and you're able to still experience parenthood. So it was a beautiful thing. I love that Ashley was also very transparent about the autism story with her children, because I know, like I said, I think I told you about it, episode 2 of back or two. She had already mentioned this on ESPN, and they had talked about, how Tony also has autism. So I think it's super brave whenever people talk about this comfortably, and parents are very honest about all the things that you experience in those stages. I used to have like a side gig job for like probably like 6 months, working with like this program when I was in college years and years ago. And it was working with like a special education program, but they specifically worked with autistic kids that were all on the spectrum. And they basically would just send you into schools, like at a happenstance. Like you would get a call that says like, hey, we need you to come to this school. And it could be anywhere from like first grade to high school. And you would basically be like either a teacher's aide for the day, or you would be like an aide for the student. And I worked with so many different kids on the spectrum. And then we had to go to like little conferences here and there. And it was like a part-time gig, but honestly, it helped me to witness the bravery, the resilience, and just like the pure advocacy of parents for their children, especially autistic parents who work really hard to make sure their kids have services and that they are heard despite whatever's going on with them. It's just the parents they're rock stars to me, especially because there's so much you can go through. Parents deal with all kinds of issues with their jobs and things like that, because they sometimes have to be called to schools. They have to be called to like incidences that happen at the school, depending on the child's level in the spectrum, and some behavioral issues that can occur. I dealt with kids who are that significantly independent, because I think Ashley said her oldest son is very independent, and he's also high functioning. So he could maybe live on his own one day, independently, or probably even go to college. And so you meet kids that are like on that level. And then you also meet kids who may always have to have some type of, home care or live with their parents for the rest of their life. And it can just be like, eye-opening. So I love that they shared this moment, and I really thought it was great to see just a different aspect and the navigation of that life. She also touched on Tony's diagnosis, and she said that it made her feel like her kids will be fine, because her husband is a living testimony to being able to persevere when you get diagnosed with anything, especially a learning disability, or with any type of disability when you're younger, or what's seen to be a disability. So I just thought it was a really heartwarming story. And I think it was really important just to show the different spectrums that you see people on, and how parents are navigating that. So shout out to Ashley for this moment. Honey, so now we back with Miss Mona Scott Young Jr. AKA Neek, as she's getting ready to show us just a little bit into her life. And she's showing us her job as an influencer and all that it entails, the dancing, the TikToking, the eating out sushi with your camera by phone, all of the stuff that goes into being that YouTube girl. And she is that girl. As we know, she already has like over 1 million followers. And Nick is really an OG. I thought it was weird that they were saying that, it can be hard with her being an influencer, and like she's happy to have met Dwayne. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, Nick been on YouTube for years. She was that girl way before she met this guy, and she was making money on YouTube before she met him. And their relationship is also super new because I think they only been together for like 3 years. So I didn't understand what she was articulating to also, I guess, what the show was trying to get to come across. Like Dwayne came in and saved her because sis already was making money. But she said, Dwayne swept her off her feet and, they've been great ever since. So she's excited for whatever's going to happen between them. And she's also excited about this girls' night because she feels like it's a great time for them to get together, stop the drama, have some drinks, and get to know each other better. Well, all right, y'all. If you've been with me for this long, that means you like something about this video. So do me a quick favor and smash that like button at the bottom. It takes no time, I promise you. And I appreciate the love. Let's get back into it. Okay, but can we talk about it? Why do we have multiple MUAs in all of these scenes on these shows? It's not making sense to me. It really is not. Shawnee, explain to me why there are MUAs for all of these different girls to simply go to like the area bar. Like it was a bar on the corner. Why were we always getting our makeup done as if we don't know how to do our makeup ourselves? Like, it's giving inauthenticity to the highest level. We get that it's a show, but do you have to make it feel like the cameras are always there and it's a show? Because why are they getting their makeup done to just go to Lefty's bar? It did not make sense to me. It was this constant full hair glam. It was not Real Housewives. It's not giving we're going out to an event, honey. Even the housewives on these different shows will absolutely, unless they are uber rich, will absolutely do their own hair and makeup to just go out for the night. It's not necessary to have this full glam squad for you to go to the corner. It gave fake to me. And have you noticed that everybody, for the most part, with the exception of a few, are all living in the same townhouse rental? Honey, when they zoomed down on Danielle's place and it was the same neighborhood where Nika's currently renting and the same neighborhood where Mackenzie is 3 houses down, it's giving timeshare. I don't understand the situation. So anyway, we go to this fake scene where Megan and Danielle are sitting there getting their makeup done and getting, all glammed up for the night. And you can tell that they're definitely cast members and not friends. And there's nothing wrong with, them having a chit chat, but it just felt a little fake to me. Megan is there collecting her check, honey, and getting the job done that Shawnee told her to do. So Megan thinks that the next event is supposed to be one of peace, and she definitely wants to see, how everybody shows out, and she thinks it's important because Nika's an influencer, and they don't want to look crazy on camera. Danielle says that she thinks that everybody would be cordial and tolerate each other, but she doesn't think that there would be peace because she doesn't think everybody gets along, and she specifically does not get along with Mackenzie. It's an effort to go in and sort of like bring up again the fact that Mackenzie was possibly the side chick to Dwayne. But the way Dwayne was carrying it, honey, I don't think she knew if she was in a relationship no more. And again, if it's been 3 months after he left the relationship, girl, then she's not a side chick. It's just off the rip. The energy is just weird. Also, it needs to be had that this constant coming from Mackenzie in every episode. And Mackenzie doesn't, to me, feel like she's going to necessarily be a fave for me, but she is playing this very well. And it makes Danielle look like the bitter ex so much because Mackenzie's like, girl, I don't know. Like, what do you want from me? Like, I don't know what to tell you. And honestly, that's what any woman would be given. Like, what's the extra hostility for? You keep coming into me all the time. Like, what is this going to really change? And it's like Danielle is just not willing to accept that she just looks stupid for a man that does not care. You got these receipts, honey, but Rashad don't care. You got all this information, but Rashad don't care. And then they keep forcing down Mackenzie's, throat that, he was telling me lies and telling you lies, so we need to go to him. We don't need to do that. Why are you super invested in her breaking up with him? Just so you can get back in his life? Because you're already in his life as his baby mama, but you really are trying to land the other spot. Honey, you went from fiance to phone bae, except the fact that he ain't coming back. And why are you so invested in seeing their demise if you don't really care about Rashad like that and you don't understand that? She also goes on to say that, I guess Megan kind of tried to convince her, like, hey, girl, Mackenzie is going through what you were going through at one point, too. And I don't even think Mackenzie, she's like, she's so stupid. And so Megan goes, well, I don't think she's stupid. I think she's lonely. And Megan says she basically feels like Mackenzie, had something similar happen to her with somebody else. And she was out here by herself. And she probably saw this man moving on. And she's like, look, I want to get somebody that's equal or just as good as the guy I was dating on my level. And, give me one of these NBA people I'm used to. I kept telling y'all, Mackenzie, like, this box is only for anybody at this, income level or above. So I don't understand the focus on this. Danielle says that she does understand. And she says that if you felt that way, I can understand her feeling lonely, but how you gonna be lonely with 2 kids? Girl, what? You lonely with 2 kids? It does not make any sense. And then Danielle goes, well, yeah, I guess I could understand what she's going through, but you moved on with somebody else's man and he's not your man. He's not your man either, Danielle. And Danielle said, it's crazy because, we miss red flags and we don't whatever. And Megan said, girl, please, we do not miss red flags. We ignore those flags because we see what we want to see and we ride along anyway. And I absolutely agree. Danielle, you need to detach, honey. He is not chasing you. All right, so ladies are finally meeting up for Neek's Ladies Night, you know what I'm saying, at the local APPLEBEES that got redesigned. I don't know what's going on, honey. It's a corner bar. I never understood it. The fact that they're dressed up to go to some place that look like it has Taco Tuesdays, where y'all could have wore some athleisure wear. Let somebody play with my wardrobe like that. I will fight. So Milan and Nikki Nicole are the first ones to show up because, what else are they doing? And of course, we see everybody's BBL. They're trying to see what size it is. And Neek says, oh, I remember Nikki when she was on TV and she was my body goals. And it's like, okay, girl. So then she's like, it's time for us to take some pictures and some videos. Because, Neek's thing is I'm making sure I get my content no matter how you heifers act. So, we realized that, they're having like this lengthy conversation initially about how they want everything to go peaceful tonight and they hope nobody's having any issues. And it just basically, it's just like this weird conversation about, we want peace to happen, but it doesn't seem like that's the case in terms of how Milan's been moving and sort of, I'm not trusting Nikki so early on because I remember how she acted on Black Ink and I want to see growth, but I'm just like, I don't know how I feel like that. Also, side note, low key, do y'all realize that this is probably the same night that viral clip happened? I don't know if y'all remember online, like maybe I want to say 3 or 4 weeks back, before the show aired, there was this viral clip that went on where Nikki was discussing her ex-4 on Black Ink because 4 had recently come out. Somebody had found like he had an OnlyFans and he was like in a cage or something getting whipped and other stuff, honey. And then he came on Angela Yee's show and was talking about how he likes to get pegged and he's fluid and all of those kind of stuff. And then Nikki went live and viral in this same place, honey, right in that Applebee's booth in the back and basically said, she called him the F word and said that he was always, not straight and he was always gay and she knew it and she been trying to tell y'all and he's so corny. It was just real wild. And she was throwing around all types of slurs. It was giving weird homophobia for no reason, especially because y'all not together no more. It's like, leave that man alone. But I noticed that that's the same outfit. So I think that was that same night. But all the girls were not there with her. She was there. I don't know who else was in that little circle, but I don't think Neek was there and I don't think Milan was either. Anyway, so Megan comes in with Danielle and they ask like, hey, where's Ashley? Where's Mackenzie? And they're like, Nick, so Nick tells them that she did invite Ashley, but Ashley was a little concerned about coming because she doesn't know how the girls are going to interact. And when they were at her thing, they acted a damn fool. And she basically says like, look, I did invite her, but everybody's on their little individual stuff. And Ashley feel like she on an island. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but she definitely should be on her way. And Danielle, of course, is already revving up for mean girl energy. And now, I hate the terminology mean girl, but honey, but that's what it was really giving. It was giving high school. And I did not understand the plastics energy that was going on with her and with Morgan the whole night. And it was really bitter and annoying. And it made you feel for Ashley and Mackenzie, which I think that there's going to be some stuff down the line that we're going to feel like, okay, we don't really care for them as much. And maybe early on, they're not phased to people. But it gave so much empathy to them because they just were doing the Wicked Witches of the East energy, and it was stupid. So I have to say that honestly, it was just really weird to see this going on. And all of a sudden, Ashley and Mackenzie walk in and they start having a conversation about the Ashley's hair because Ashley looks like she just got like goddess locks or faux locks. They were the same color her hair is right now, which is like a burgundy. To me, it did not look crazy. And it's clear that like, again, the plastics are laughing at her the entire time and it's just getting ridiculous. The other girls are like awkwardly weirded out by it because they don't have anything negative to say. They're laughing at her hair, her energy. Megan is being messy because, that's what Shawnee pays her for. And so she asked, Ashley about her hair and Ashley's like, I just got it done. I was in a chair for 7 hours. And she's like, what's that? Now we know she knew what goddess locks was, but she wanted to ask them. I didn't think they looked that bad. Y'all drop down in the comments and let me know if y'all thought they looked bad. I think they look like the average goddess locks that you would see on somebody, especially Ashley's size, because she has a slim face. The amount of locks, they looked nice to me, and they also were the color of her current hair, so it didn't look crazy. And she said, her hair was hurting a little bit because they just got done, which happens to a lot of people. So I didn't understand this, and it was just getting weird. So the waiter is coming by, I guess, to give them drinks or whatever, and he ends up dropping the glasses on the floor and breaking the glass. So the girls have to go sit at the bar, and they're sitting there having a conversation about absolutely nothing. And then Neek comes back over once they've cleared everything up, and she has the real drinks in her hand. And the drinks are actually in this bag, and they're called Dragon Blood. And she hands them out to all the different girls because the drinks are red. And then I noticed that Milan said, "Oh, girl, give me the one with the flag on it because I'm bi." And I thought that was interesting because that's going to be a huge part of Milan's story this season, is that I believe she's going to be dating a girl from the WNBA or from the international league that happens to be a female. So I'm interested to see how that story is going to turn out for them. And so back there making fun again of Ashley and her hair, and it's just getting weird and weird and weird. And Morgan begins to ask Ashley like if she's wearing her hair a certain way and all this kind of stuff. And Ashley, you could just clearly tell her she's uncomfortable. It just got to be more awkward as the episode flowed on. Honey, so when I tell you the witches of Eastwick had their whole thing planned out, so Megan decides that she's going to get even messier and play a game of Never Have I Ever. And she starts saying, the whole game, revolves around the idea that there's a question that's asked. People write questions, maybe put them in a bowl or something like that. You can't know who wrote the question. And then you just put your hand up and down as to whether or not you've done something or haven't done something. And of course, it's going to be messy as hell and is geared directly towards Ashley and Mackenzie, as we start to see. So the first question goes, never have I ever slept with a married man? And so everybody like either puts their hand up or puts their hand down, or you put your finger down. And it was interesting. So then nobody puts their hand up, and so all of a sudden, Mackenzie like doesn't have her hand up, and neither does Ashley. And then Morgan and Danielle like, oh my god, I see she's lying, she's lying. Oh my god, that's so ridiculous. Like that's so fake to me. And it's just giving again just weird energy. And Megan is egging it on as like, okay, what's going on? And everybody's looking at everybody else. And the next thing you know, Megan asked for Danielle to pick the second question. So Morgan picked the first question, and now Danielle's picking the second question because we know they wrote those questions. So the next question is, never have I ever been a side chick? What was interesting was Neek raised her hand and said, I have. I love her honesty, yo. Like either way, be out there. And to be honest with you, we don't know how many of them have been a side chick. Normally, when you marry a basketball player and stuff, yes, it could be like the whole Danielle story where we knew each other in college and I was a player, he was a player, and we met is loving basketball, and then he left me for the flight attendant. It could be that story. But a lot of these girls sometimes have traveled in multiple circles and met multiple guys and dated multiple of these men till somebody lands you as a wife or a fiance or whatever, or baby mama. So I find it interesting that nobody else was a side chick. And I found it interesting that Megan did not raise her hand. But okay. And so when Mackenzie doesn't raise her hand, Danielle like, oh, this is just so full of lies. Like, it's shocking to me, but girl, y'all are bullying her. What more do you want from the situation? We know that you wrote the question, and then you're like getting ridiculous. So the next question is never have I ever been a fake friend? And then of course, Morgan looks at Ashley and it's like, what is going on with this situation? Now, let me say this. So Morgan's like, Ashley ain't raised her hand or whatever. Ashley's like, I don't need to raise my hand, girl, because we didn't really hang out like that outside the basketball world. Ooh, that was interesting. And that was really interesting, T. Let's get into this conversation about how Ashley basically says, like, look, girl, we weren't really even real life friends. We were more so basketball world friends. And then she takes us behind the green screen and goes, let's be clear. Morgan never really hung out with me in real life. She hung out with me with basketball world. And in real life, we was just regular cool. And she said, for me to be such a fake friend, honey, how come you came to my wedding 3 years later? Like all of this extra stuff that I was doing. She said, you never really hung out with me when we were not doing basketball wife stuff. And we weren't friends in real life. And I don't want to be your friend anymore now. When I tell you, when she said we were basketball friends and Morgan's face did not change and she didn't actually disagree with her, that's when I knew that there's more to this story. Because why did you say no, girl? Why didn't you say basketball friends? I took you to the hospital. I made sure you was good. Da, 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 da. She's like, no, we were more than when we were. She said we were just basketball friends because our husbands were in the league together. Morgan did not say a peep. And that makes me believe that Ashley not completely lying about that. And so all of this, we've been so tight with each other, we've been so cool with each other, makes me feel like Morgan is definitely treading on the I've been down for this girl, we've been BFFs, may not completely be true. I found that very interesting that she stayed quiet. And, Ashley's like, look, it is what it is. I don't even care about the situation anymore because we weren't that tight and now we're just not cool anymore. Then the last question is, never have I ever thought Ashley's hair was cute. I mean, at this point, it got really irritating. Like I said earlier, it just gives high school bullies. And Nikki's over it. Neek is over it. Everybody's just like, this is getting weird. And so Ashley said, that sounds cool coming from somebody broke. I'm sorry, she said broke people got a lot to say. And she directly looked at Morgan in that situation. And I was like, damn. So we just know that this is going for extra innings, and honey, I'm getting exhausted with this back and forth thing. I hope the whole season isn't about these two going back at each other because it's just getting boring. So we're back to messy ass Megan fighting with her family, and Megan is meeting up with her brother, and I want to say a strange brother because even though he is her brother, they haven't seen each other in like 3 years, and she kind of is, breaking out the dynamic more. And she basically says that their careers took different paths, and their careers took different paths, and that's why they haven't seen each other. And that made me side eye like, again, another Scooby-Doo moment. Because what I don't understand is how did it take such different paths that you don't know how to use your cell phone? Girl, in the last 3 years or so, we've been in the pandemic. Everybody named mama was on Zoom, and half the people that was working wasn't even working for like the first 6 months of 2020. So in the 3 years, you didn't call your family at all during the pandemic, whatever. And this is the closest person this is the person you're closest to in your family, just to check on them, just to say hi. And that didn't really make any sense to me. And I was like, all of us were online. Some of us were on stay-at-home orders. Like, what's going on? Megan says that they were very close growing up, but that she still, doesn't see him as often. And she's not as close to him as their mom is because he's younger than her, but he also was raised by their mom from cradle to, older age. And, he actually lives kind of close to their mom where he currently lives at. And of course, Megan hasn't seen her mom in quite some time. So, he's happy to see her. They're having conversation. The other thing, y'all, that I did not understand about her situation, saying that her and Brian, had led like not different lives with the mom, because I understand basically the mother raised him and didn't raise Megan. I understand like the issue she has with that. And obviously we got to get deeper into this as the season goes on. But I didn't understand about her and Brian's situation when she said the career path thing, because Brian was in the NFL, y'all. He's a free agent. And when she said things in different directions, I mean, girl, you was sleeping with a couple of different players here and there. You were messing with some referees. Y'all really didn't move outside of the world of athleticism. And that's exactly what your brother was. I mean, NFL to NBA, but he's still in the athletic world. So it's not making sense that you wouldn't have been around him. Brian is a cornerback. He's currently playing for the Birmingham Stallions for the USFL. And also he played for the Steelers, the Seahawks, the Bills, the 49ers, the Bengals, and the Cleveland Browns. So what point were you not at football games or you're not hanging out that you did not happen to know that your brother was there? Where were y'all so different from each other in alignment that you just never have the time to be around him? It's not making sense to me, because Megan's whole entire thing has been being on this show, kind of being an athlete's girlfriend here or there, and then finally landing this podcast. Anyway, Megan starts to have her breakdown about, what she's doing and what's going on with her, how she wished she didn't move to Orlando from LA. She's dating someone and that they're trying to have a baby. Now, that also made me say skirt, because I don't remember that man saying he was trying to have a baby. I remember him saying that anybody he was going to have children with needed to be family oriented, and Megan needed to get her life together with her family before they could even do that. I don't remember him saying we're trying for a kid. It's giving delusional. She said that she has been talking with her boyfriend. He said that she needs to get her family life together if she wants to do anything with him regarding a child. And then she gets into the back and forth about, how she loves her boyfriend and she will only be doing this for him. Brian talks to her about the dynamic they have with their family. It wasn't giving any real information other than that we met her brother. So the girls are meeting up for pettiness and pedicures, and it's Neek, Milan, and Nikki, and they're meeting at a salon. And they're specifically talking about the night regarding the bar situation and when they were at Chili's, and how do they feel about everything, and sort of like the bully energy that Morgan and Danielle were giving off. And so their first, I feel like Nikki was the person to introduce this, which was interesting because at the end of the episode, she seemed like she turned cheek. But anyway, she mentions how she thought it was uncomfortable as the girls were going at Ashley's hair. Did they think that it looked bad? And everybody seemed to be laughing. And then we actually go to a scene where it's them sitting there, and Neek says, like, who wrote the question? We're going back to when they were at the bar, and Neek says, well, who wrote the question about Ashley's hair? And, did y'all really think it looked that bad? And it was kind of like, again, Danielle and Morgan being messy and kind of laughing, and Megan trying to join in a little bit. And you could kind of see when they turned over to Nikki, she looked uncomfortable. But Nikki points out, like, yeah, at the end of the day, all that energy was weird. And Nika's like, look, that's not what I was on. I wasn't trying to do that. And it just really brought the night down. Just being around that kind of negative stuff just really ruins an evening. And absolutely, when you're around somebody who's just not up for having a good time, or they just want some extra bitterness or whatever, it just makes the evening so annoying. Y'all could have just stayed home. Like, we supposed to be drinking and having a good time and turning up. We don't have to be the best of friends, but we can make the evening bearable enough so that we can get along. And then Milan says that she's cool with Danielle and Ashley, so it's really uncomfortable. And, she's trying to at least be cordial with Ashley, even if she's not best of friends with her anymore. And she says she doesn't even really know Mackenzie like that, but it was uncomfortable with the drama happening. And she's saying that she thinks she wants to try to throw some type of positive things to sort of bring peace to the situation and to, have the girls come together. So then we just touch briefly again on Ashley and her sons, Carter and Kenzo. And Ashley was talking to Dwayne earlier in the episode about meeting up with someone to get an assessment. So the son, Carter, has been diagnosed as autistic high functioning, but the youngest son, Kenzo, is now starting to have some behaviors that Ashley recognizes and worries about whether or not he has like a developmental delay. And so she has been waiting for an appointment to get an assessment, but the assessment is going to be during a time that Dwayne can't be there. And I think in prior situations, they talked about trying to do everything with their kids when it comes to this type of thing. But there's some things, unfortunately, she has to do alone because Dwayne is traveling and working. So she goes to the assessment, and I, again, just love how they showed, like, the honesty in this moment and just the transparency of what parents have to go to when they're trying to, see if their child has any sort of learning disability or any sort of developmental delay. And, we basically watched her son get a little bit of a mini assessment to see if he has any signs that he could possibly be autistic. And so he's there with her and another person, and they're sort of going through the things to just see like how he responds to stuff, if he responds to the woman when she's asking questions and responds to Ashley, and if he's like cognitively aware of what's going on. And again, I love how proactive Ashley was, because she was already saying, like, even if he's diagnosed, we're going to get through this. And I already have hired somebody to be like a developmental delay person for them. I also love that Ashley is constantly shown giving her kids swim lessons. That's such an important thing, especially if you have a child who may be special needs. Like, they know how to basically save themselves if they would like to fall into water or things like that. Kids should know that in general, if you have a pool in your home, how to swim, and very early on, and consistently learning to get them to an expert level that if something was to happen, they could save themselves. If you just happen to turn around for 2 seconds, honey, or they're having a pool party or whatever, because we've seen too many tragedies end in a bad situation because the child doesn't know how to swim. Also, if you have a special needs child, them knowing how to be able to manage or possibly save themselves if they were in water. So I think it's just really, really great to see her be so proactive on multiple levels when it comes to her kids and working through stuff. She says she already hired a speech therapist no matter what's going on, because the son has not been talking as much. He's been a little bit nonverbal, and she's trying to get his levels up. So again, I think it was just really nice to see her share this part of her journey. And I think it's also important to understand the resources that are available in different towns and cities for parents who have autistic children or who have children that may have developmental delays and things that they can do. So shout out to Basketball Wives for actually being serious enough. Anyway, back at the gym on the other side of town, Danielle is meeting with Milan, and they start talking about their love of basketball, honey. They were both college athletes. As we know, Milan is a basketball influencer. That just happened this year. I've never heard of that. And Danielle admires that Milan is so focused on the game and has found passion to want to go back to the game herself. She says she was that girl, you know what I'm saying, when she was in college, you know what I'm saying? Why she remind me of Joanna from Clark. From Real Housewives of Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? I was that girl. So she basically said she was that girl, and then she ended up, going to Lithuania to play for a year, and she got pregnant, and so she kind of had to stop living her dreams. And she really admires that Milan has really gotten back into the love of basketball, that she's influencing these young girls, and is making her think that she can get back into it too. Of course, she mentions the love and basketball story from UNLV. And, she said that having kids really like changed that situation for her, and kind of following Rashad around. And she really needs to get back into who she is. And I believe that this is something that really could help her get unfocused and unhinged from him. Girl, you need this on all levels, mental and physical. And I think actually doing this and chasing a basketball down the court instead of chasing every girl Rashad ever meets or will ever meet that is not you is absolutely something that's healthy for her. It's just, it's unhealthy to be this dramatic, weird, bitter ex. And I just feel like you can't be sitting around waiting to find out who the next girl is going to be, if he's going to get back with you, if he's going to chase you, if he's going to break up with Mackenzie. It's got to be driving her crazy. And the problem I have is that she ends up saying that, she doesn't like the idea that people see her as like this hurtful individual, and that she was hoping to like be in a fresh new space and just, be a mother to her kids. But we can't tell, girl, like you can't be done with the meal that you keep serving every night. I don't understand that situation and bringing this man up on every possible occasion when he probably isn't doing that for her. She said she's just really hurt that he moved on so quickly, but that is a Rashad issue. That's not a Mackenzie issue. If it wasn't her, it still wasn't going to be you. So she just says that, people need to respect the fact that she just is going to have time to grieve. And, she said that the energy of like the bullying situation, she's tired of it, is draining her as well. And I'm like, okay, if it's draining you, then you need to stop. Because right now we think that you're just going home sick, sad, and sliding down a wall every other day that you see Mackenzie, when you realize that you and Rashad are no longer together. So Milan tells her, look, girl, I think we can mend this situation. I want to have a get together with the girls. I'm going to call it the Last Supper. And hopefully at this thing, y'all will become more cordial. So now we back at the bootleg Mac counter that is Morgan's home, honey. And the girls are getting their makeup done again just to have a basic meetup. It's just giving weirdo energy. At this point, I think they found these little girls on TikTok that really just want to like get their life on, or Instagram, and just want to grow their pages. And they're like, hey, if you do their makeup for free, we'll give y'all a shout out. Y'all be able to be seen on TV. Because again, why are we getting our makeup done to sit and talk to each other or go do basic events? It makes no sense. You're getting your makeup done to sit around other women. And even if it's for the show, you don't know how to do just a basic beat. And I know Nikki does, because she used to do her own makeup and she does her own hair because she's a hairstylist. Like, it's giving fake. Like, these girls know how to do their makeup. Anyway, so she decides that she's going to hang out with Morgan. And I guess she was over there to try to talk to her about keeping the peace in a way. But I don't know how it even, went on to the conversation that it did. But it's weird because Nikki is meeting up with Morgan, and when Morgan and her are sort of connecting before they sit down in their chairs, Morgan gets a knock on the door, and Nikki goes, I hope it's my flowers. So I'm thinking somebody bought flowers to Nikki and she knew they were coming, but she actually was a bouquet of roses that she was getting for Morgan, because she said, I know you've been going through a lot. I didn't really know her and Morgan knew each other because Megan was the one that introduced her, but okay. So she gets this bouquet and tells Morgan that she got it for her because she knows she's been going through a lot with everything that's been going on and with her ex, and she wanted her to feel special. And Morgan says, well, thanks, girl. And I got you a, smoothie from Tropical Smoothie. And, we're even. And she says, I really appreciate it. And then Morgan goes, look, I don't even really know Nikki, but I'm really happy that she got me these flowers. I didn't expect this. And it was just a really nice gesture from her. I like her. And so then Morgan proceeds to go into a conversation about everything that's been going on, honey. And nothing but the subject of Ashley comes back up again. It just literally at the tip of her tongue, jump in anytime. At this point, Ashley is her storyline. And you're choosing the path of miserableness that I don't understand, girl. We need more of this. When we met you in episode 1, you were talking about opening up a salon. Yes, we got more to go, but we're on episode 3 and y'all only got 10 episodes in the season. So I'm really trying to understand why we're not talking about this beauty business that you're trying to do, other things that's going on in your life. I mean, how is the divorce going with Eric? Something other than Ashley. It's just getting weird. And then Morgan says that she's cool with Mackenzie, but she can't deal with somebody who's delusional. Have you met your friend Danielle? I don't understand, girl. You're hanging out with delusional every day. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, we back to Mackenzie and this man, honey. So Nikki says that some people, she's shocked that, Morgan, and she said, well, no, she said that Mackenzie, I don't like being around people who are fake, and Danielle is my girl. And so Nikki says that some people feel like you're a bully and that you're being fake. And this is where you realize Nikki hasn't really grown, and she's still the same messy heifer she was when she was on Black Ink Crew. Because, girl, why are you hanging out with the girls, listening to the conversation, contributing to the conversation? You entered the word bully into the conversation, and then turning around like you weren't there having the same conversation and telling Morgan, like, let me tell her what these girls said about her. Girl, didn't you come in as Megan's friend? But it's just still giving weirdness. Like the extra co-signing about the situation with these girls when you were at the a pedicure spot with them and then turning around and making something like they were talking mess about them behind their back when y'all were all talking about how everything went. So Morgan says, if anybody's being bullied, it's her and her children. And I'm like, oh, girl, here we go with the children again, girl. She keeps saying that Ashley is bullying her and her kids. Please explain to me in the comments below how Ashley is bullying them children. Even if she's talking to Eric, even if she's talking to the ex and maybe telling them Morgan's business, which she should not be, and we don't actually know if she is, how is Ashley bullying your kids? And everything doesn't even make sense in this connection. I've been wondering how she keeps bringing this up. I need more clarity. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I do. And again, the obsession with Ashley is getting weird. Girl, we know you hate her. Just move on. And Nikki says that she doesn't think that it's a problem or they were bullying her. She felt like she was standing up for herself, and she realized that Nikki is the same person. Again, that she was on that show where she was so obsessed with like trying to bully Kat because Four had messed with Kat and Four wasn't even faithful to her, just for her to come back on like a season or two later and find out that Four was still cheating and talking to different women, and she was willing to fight him for all this other stuff going on. It's like you haven't grown from anything, girl. And like this 4-year-old behavior is showing that. And y'all remember do y'all remember when Nikki showed up with Van's ex on Black Ink Crew and they tried to fight all the girls on the show because they were upset that the men were cooler with the girls on the show than they were with their own girlfriends? And so they tried to like take over the show and like run the girls off that worked in the shop. And so they showed up. It was them. It was Nikki. It was Don's wife, Ashley, and it was another girl. I forget her name. She went with Van and they like showed up to this cabin where the whole like Black Ink Crew was staying just to have like a night or whatever. And they all showed up and tried to like disrupt the energy and tried to get into it with the girls because they was upset because they felt the girls shouldn't be at the house with the men. It was so corny. Anyway, back to the show. So Nikki says that, Milan is planning a sit down where basically we can get together and talk about our situations. But the thing that I don't like is that she has Mackenzie sitting across from Danielle, and I think that that's messy. And I actually do too. And they even flash back to when Nikki says, why would you have them sitting across from each other when they're in the nail salon? And she says, why not diagonally? It just feels like that's a setup. And so Morgan goes, they ain't gonna have my girl sitting across from her. Like, I'm not gonna have that because y'all not gonna have her acting out of character. You mean acting how she act every day? Because we don't even know her in character at this point. We only know her for being a jackass. And so she's like, we're not gonna have her being messy like that. I'm not gonna let her go out like that. So Morgan is like, it seems to me like Milan is the one that's actually being messy and playing both sides of the defense, and we're gonna stop all this fake-ish now. So that was the end of the episode. It goes on to show us that the next episode is obviously going to show the get together at Milan's house, and things get a little bit spicy because it seems like Morgan and Neek get into it, but we don't know yet. We have to check and see. This episode was definitely pretty good, and I really love the fact that we got to touch on Ashley's life in a different way past the whole snake thing. It's important to see that. I also loved how transparent Neek was about, all her behavior, and it was interesting to see. It was also interesting to see Megan's story a little bit more and how she dealt with her mom. So y'all let me know what y'all thought about the episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.